Hello, everyone. It is wonderful to see you today. This is the New Orleans Game Developers Meetup for the month of September. My name is Curtis, and I'm joined virtually by my co-host Benjamin and our special guest Nick, who you will hear from a lot soon. But we'll save it. We'll save it for a second. Hello, Tomcat, there in the chat. Hope you're doing good. So welcome, everyone who's been to a meetup before. If you've not been to a meetup before, you're not welcomed until the next meetup. So wait patiently for that. Hopefully we'll be back in the Sea Cave next month, and it'll be a good time. In case you don't know, we meet on the third Thursday of every month, which is today, the third Thursday. And we also have a weekly hack night in Discord. If you're not a member of our Discord, you can join it by scanning this QR code, or I have a handy dandy link somewhere to the Discord invite that I will post. It was posted already because of our Streamlabs bot. How wonderful. Look at that. We're the best. Can't wait to see your face, IRL. Thank you, Jason. It's great to have everybody. We've got a great show for you tonight. So first off, we got some news. I think we have news, right? I don't know if we talked about this, but we, the organizers of the Game Dev Meetup, have come together and filed a 501c3 nonprofit for our little group here. What that means for y'all is not really much, but it allows us to take donations from big companies and small companies if they feel like tossing a penny our way or whatever. But being able to accept money will give us resources so that we can have better meetups with like food and drinks and stuff on the house. We'll also be able to organize events, and our game jams will be lavish and wonderful. So we'll figure out more specifics of how that'll all work a bit further down the line. If you represent a large corporation, want to give us money, we'll say your name during the meetup, and we'll put your logo somewhere, probably on our website, neworleansgamedev.com. But yeah, we'll stay tuned. We'll have more information about what that actually means. But one of the things it means is this month, the last few weeks, we were able to put together an itch bundle. So we got a bunch of games from a few developers local to Louisiana, and we made this bundle on itch to raise money for Hurricane Ida relief. As you can see here, we raised over $28,000, and that's not counting an extra special $5,000 donation that happened after the bundle ended. So we got up to a bit over $33,000 raised for charities benefiting South Louisiana and one organization in New York as well. So we have our top contribution of $9,999.99, which is the most you can donate on itch because the IRS doesn't care about anything under $10,000. We got 222 contributors with an average contribution of $127.77. All around a rousing success. Thank you everyone who submitted games for the bundle. I apologize to everyone who submitted games for the bundle we couldn't add. We had a not great communication line with the overlords at itch, and their bundle system isn't really good for adding things after the fact. But we raised a lot of money, so, whatever. If you want to give your games away for free, just give them to them, I guess. But we made money, and thank you for the community because y'all helped make it happen. So kudos, hats off to y'all. We did it. We made a lot of money. I don't know if there's any more news. Ben, is there anything else?
Bundle's the big thing. I think you covered all of it. Hack night is every Tuesday on our Discord.
Oh, yes, Hack Night. Every Tuesday at 7 p.m.
I know you mentioned it, but you didn't say when. So.
Oh, okay. Well, every Tuesday, Discord, 7 p.m., we hack the night away. Actually, I found out today is the some numbereth anniversary of the movie Hackers. So, Hack the Planet. That's a great movie. Very in theme. But yeah, that's the end of our news. So without further ado, I'm gonna let my good chum Nickaroony take over. If you don't know Nick, he is the leader of Racanteur Games, based out of Baton Rouge, or yeah, gotta be Baton Rouge. It's where you live. I mean, you don't live there. That's where you've been seen.
We started in Lafayette. I lead the charge, and a lot of other much smarter people help bring it to life. I'm in Baton Rouge. We started in Lafayette, but we have folks from all over.
Excellent. Something else that you may or may not need to know about Nick is he is the heir to the crawfish bread empire. So if this were in person and he were here with us, there would be crawfish bread for you to sample. But he's not, and there isn't. So my empty stomach aside, just think about crawfish bread.
Yeah, if you get bored with me at any point, just think about my dad's crawfish bread, and your day gets like 100% better. So that's my strategy for the meetup tonight. Get bored, think about crawfish bread.
All right. Well, Nick, you want to go ahead and take over this? Wait, hold on. Enable screen share. There you go.
Let's do this.
I remembered. I usually don't remember.
I think you have to stop first before it'll give me the wheel.
I don't know if there's anything inappropriate under here. Nope, just our faces.
Okay. I never have luck with the browser, so I'm going to share the whole screen. Did I close my silly Gambit Twitter thread? I did. Gambit is live tweeting the trash press conference right now, which is just such a 2021 statement, but we won't get into that. So everything coming through, you can see my screen good?
Yeah, we'd see it.
Okay, awesome.
Looks great.
Well, thanks, Ben. Looks great. I got a good from Curtis and a great from Ben. So again, you got that. Think about crawfish bread. We're in a good zone. So we'll kick this off. So as you all know by this point, I'm Nick Laborde from Racanteur Games. My dad is crawfish bread man. I feel like roughly 5% into any talk or relating to New Orleans, or if I'm in the city or I'm doing a interview with someone or anything to that degree, I have to mention the crawfish bread thing. I think it's actually a long forgotten city ordinance. So I got to dig that up one day, check out the legality of it. But yeah, so all silly jokes aside, my dad does the crawfish bread at Jazz Fest, hoping that we get there in 2022, fingers crossed. But apart from that, I help him ship it. And then my sort of claim to doing things is I make games at Racanteur Games. I make my team makes very narratively focused games. And today we're going to talk about our journey of our newest game, Doggone. So many of you have heard me speak before and know me. And if you don't, cool, welcome. Thanks for listening. For those who are hearing about Doggone for the 50 millionth time, I hope I have some interesting surprises for you. And this is why I've called it Holy Smokes. I don't know if I can curse here. You're still doing that. The story of Doggone. So let's jump right in. I totally did the thing where I had this all planned out in a nice sequential order, and then I said it all before I got to the slide. So yeah, that's me. That's the Racanteur Games logo. We started in Lafayette. I live in Baton Rouge, so I guess technically we're based in Baton Rouge because I run it, ? But we have folks from all over the country and all over the world that contribute to our projects. And I like to say that I have no idea what I'm doing most of the time, but I know that I really got to make our dog game. So that's what's kept me going for this whole time. And some of my slides animate the bullet points on and some don't. So that's going to be fun to figure that out in real time. But here's some stuff I worked on. I made a very bad space game in 2016 called Close Order. I made a pretty good little game about color and love in 2017. Color guides you through the world. It's a love story. We had a little infinite clicker that we made in 2017 called Embrace the Void. And then from then, we've kind of been working on Doggone on and off since 2017. And since then, starting in 2019, I've worked professionally a day job in industrial AR and VR for a few different companies. I commuted to the New Orleans area for about 6 months in the before times, and God bless everyone who commutes that far, because I did not have fun. So if you commute, I hope that you can work from home forever. I think you've all earned it by this point. But I got to work on a couple cool things, a bunch of VR simulations that mean absolutely nothing to the outside public. But one of these means a lot to Curtis, and that's where I'll leave that. And then I also got to make another cool little project last year in collaboration with my day job at 3D Media called You Can Pet the Dog VR, which is the informal sort of intro to Doggone. We commonly get the question of, hey, can you pet the dog and Doggone? And then me, all snarky, just sits back in my chair, puts my feet up and go, well, it's a philosophical question, that one, because you are the dog, so who would pet the dog? So anyway, this solves that problem. If you want to play with the dog and pet it in VR, You Can Pet the Dog VR is on Steam for $4.99. So if you want to support the project, that's an easy early way. But that's a quick overview of all the stuff that I have worked on and am currently working on. And we've already been through this. There's delicious crawfish bread. Ben was saying before we went live that he was hungry. So I'm sorry, Ben. I just made it objectively worse. But my promise is when I come back in person next time, I will bring some crawfish bread, and everything will be delicious and wonderful as it was in the before times.
Hey, Nick, we actually had a question in the chat.
Oh, sure. I'm not looking at chat, so feel free to stop me.
Good. I am. Do you have crawfish bread options for gluten intolerant people?
So that's a great question, and thank you for asking it. My dad, the crawfish bread man, has an idea. I mean, he thinks it's a pretty simple solution to make a batch of gluten-free crawfish bread. It would probably be shipped only. NOLAcrawfishbread.com. There's my one sponsorship of the day. But on all seriousness, if you can send an email, go to NOLAcrawfishbread.com and go to the contact form later tonight after the talk and send an email about wanting to do a gluten-free version. That helps me basically create a paper trail and say, hey, Dad, let's finally do that, because we've been talking about doing that for a very long time. So the answer is yes. It's not there yet, but we're basically just need to say, okay, let's do an experiment and let's make it work. So we can do that for you. Just send us an email, and that gives me the kick in the pants to go do it. So thank you for that question. And again, Curtis, please let me know if anyone asks a question or has a wonderful comment or funny joke.
Yeah, I'm watching like a hawk. Don't worry.
Perfect. So what's next? We have a great little remastered version of Evangeline just sitting in a repo that for many complicated reasons has not been released. So that's going to come out one day. And then Doggone will come out eventually based on how the next few weeks go. So, we at Racanteur Games, we really like to pride ourselves on our very clear timelines and production schedules of one day and eventually. So that's what you can expect in the future from us. But tonight we're here to talk specifically about Doggone. There's a lovely little GIF. If you see that dog stretch and you don't think to yourself, big stretch, then I have concerns, because who can look at a dog, do a down dog, and not say the words big stretch? So that's my philosophy for the evening. So the story of Doggone. About 10,000 years ago, in the year 2016, we brainstormed the idea of a sort of storybook anthology of 5 small games that would be connected only by narrative, but each game would be a different genre, art style, gameplay style, etc. Luckily, we never did that, because What Remains of Edith Finch did that way better than we ever could. So thankfully, someone did use that idea. I'm not claiming to have started that idea, but I'm glad that someone took a similar idea and did it so well. So if you ever played that game, it's a great game. But the point of that is, one of those titles of the 5 was about a lost dog trying to find its way back home. So that storybook project never saw the light of day. It just kind of died in pre-production. We didn't have the resources to pull it off effectively. But that one idea about the lost dog trying to find its way back home stuck with us. That was in 2016. We went on to ship Evangeline in early 2017. And then we just kind of kept thinking. Lovely philosophical GIF here from Google. What if we tried to work on that game? What if we tried to bring it to life and just said, you know what, let's start it, let's try it, let's see where it goes? Well, Obviously, we did, because that's what I'm here to talk about tonight. We started working on Doggone without any clear promise that we could get to the end. We knew that we could, in some way, shape, or form. We didn't know what that would look like, how long it would take, or how we would even do it. But we said, let's do it. We started and honestly could never stop because we just fell in love with this idea, because we all grew up with animal movies across cultures, no matter where you come from, how old you are, what part of the world you hail from. Like, animal stories are just ironically one of the most human things out there. And everybody understands that intrinsically. Like, oh, it's, perilous journey, animal gets away from home, goes through obstacles, comes home, reunion, happy ending, all that stuff. No sad endings on this game. Good vibes. And we wanted to kind of replicate that style of like roughly 2.5 hour like animal movie journey, but kind of in game form, because we found with animal games that they either go hyper genre specific, like something brilliant like Skatebird, or some of those bigger open world large area exploration style games, like I think that Lost Ember game. There's the one about the sugar glider that's coming out. I think that's Away, the survival series. I think I'm saying that right. That's coming out soon too. Check that out. Cool people making it. So the point is, Doggone is not like any of those, and we've never seen anybody do it the way that we want to do it. So that's why we've kind of kept pursuing for all these years. So we started on what was then called Project Rose in February of 2017. We codenamed all our projects at Racanteur Games after flowers, and the very, very confusing, complex, philosophical reasoning behind Rose is we did it in February and Valentine's Day was coming up. So very technical naming there, but we really believed in it. And it just wasn't very good. You just kind of walked for about 5 minutes, and this is an old GIF that I dug up off a hard drive that I didn't even believe I still had footage of it. I don't know if I could even find the build anymore, but it was where a German Shepherd walking through these kind of picturesque areas at like dusk. And we just wanted to say, okay, here's a dog. It's walking through a pretty environment. We had like text and spoken word narration style of the narrative going on there. And, we thought it was an interesting first step, but it just wasn't very good. Like, there was no art style. I art directed this one. You can see why it no longer looks like that. I do not need to be involved in art direction, as I learned my lesson later. So it didn't have a defined art style, and it didn't really have any gameplay. I mean, you walked, you jumped, and you ran. I mean, there was nothing special or particularly dog-like in that build. So while it was in our heart and we used all our Evangeline money, most of it on this project, we were like, okay, it was a worthy experiment. We need to keep going. We need to keep doing this. We reached out casually to a couple publishers and investors around that time. Of course, no one was interested because that's the story leading up to where we are now. But we learned a lot from this experience, and it told us a lot of resource management, figuring out the game that we want to make, and then how to present that game to folks who could potentially partner and finance us. So we kept going. In late 2017, after all our funding options kind of dried up, we decided, all right, the game is not very good, which is a hard thing to sit back and say, especially when you've invested a lot of time and emotional energy into a project. We decided to restart it from scratch because we realized, as I said previously, it had no art direction, no real gameplay, and it just needed a complete reboot because it just did not feel good. I brought in my longtime friend and very talented artist, Abe Casson, to art direct, and he's still with the team today, and decided that I had to keep the project going through self-funding because we still believed in it. And don't worry, we'll address blindly sticking to something that you believe in against all odds later on. The whole point of this is we kept going because we knew that there was an idea and we just had to carve it out. Perhaps at the expense of being able to do other projects, perhaps at the expense of a sequel to any of our other games or anything else, we said, Doggone is the game that we need to make. So we came back, we changed the dog, we came up with a different art style, far more vibrant and colorful, with influences from classic Disney. It was starting to come together, and we were starting to really figure out what this game was and what it could be. So 2019 Doggone, also the last time that I talked to the lovely all of you here in the New Orleans Meetup. 2019 Doggone was much closer to the vision of what the game should be, but still not quite it. So in 2019, we assembled Rose version 2. That was we didn't actually come up with the name Doggone until we did a Kickstarter, which I'll talk about in a minute. We hammered out the art style, and it went viral and got over 1 million views. So I don't think this was the exact GIF, but it was very similar. It was the dog walking out from like the camera view, being close up and pulling back, going through the trees. That got over 1 million views on Reddit, and we posted a couple different clips and got, I think, close to 2 million views in total on that version of the game. It wasn't out. It wasn't available for sale. It wasn't really playable for anybody besides a little concept demo that we put together showcasing 3 small areas. Again, about a 5-minute demo. But we figured out, okay, this is the hardest part, and we think we've done it. We've come up with an art style that's aesthetically pleasing. It's cute. It's catchy. It's got bright colors. People are interested in it. And of course, the unique selling proposition of playing as a dog, right? Cute dog, cute art style. We had accomplished something that's very hard for a lot of games to do, which is to, immediately grasp someone's attention visually. So that in and of itself was the biggest accomplishment of Rose 2019. Unfortunately, the gameplay still wasn't there. We tried to secure funding. I went on an even bigger negotiation would be a misnomer, because it was just a lot of sending off and hoping someone is interested and wants to talk further type of thing. We did that with a lot of people in 2019, and I made a lot of great contacts. I got to pitch to many of them in person at GDC 2019. Remember when thousands of people could be in one roof together? Those were great times. I met a lot of folks, got a lot of interesting feedback, met some folks through other folks, yada, yada, made extra connections, and kind of opened the door to having a connection at almost every group that I would classify as like a dream partner, or someone that would be, in our eyes and our vision, a good fit for not just financing the project, but for being a true partner and helping us, bring it to life and share it with the world. So I got to make all those contacts, which again was another great thing accomplished with the 2019 build. Unfortunately, like I said, the gameplay still wasn't there. So that version of the project did not get funded and did not continue on. So we tried a Kickstarter after that. After we were unable to secure traditional financing, we had an idea for a different route, a different business model. And of course, as you will know in the running series of events here, that too was unsuccessful. We only raised about $10,000 of a $100,000 goal, almost 2 years to the day, August 15th, 2019, not September. And that taught us a lot about interacting with a community and how important it was to build a community prior to launching a game or a funding initiative or anything like that, and having interested folks lined up. It's not just throw the project on there with a few hundred email subscribers and say, hey, give what you can and let's see how far this goes. I mean, that was our mindset. We were throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what stuck. Unfortunately, Kickstarter would not be the way that this project would continue or find funding or anything like that. So we yet again, from a second version of the game, and after this was around the time that I spoke to you all previously, I believe in fall of 2019, and ultimately that version of the game was still not as good as it could have been. So let's take a break, quick second, sanity check. Why the hell didn't we stop? That's what I was referencing a few minutes ago, right? Like, we pretty much used all the money that we made from our previous games that was left over to make Doggone basically twice at this point. Neither time was good enough to secure a publishing deal. Neither time was good enough to have something that we could release to the public or really put out there in the sense of a playable version of the game outside of demonstrating a vision, vertical slice, so to speak. Why the hell would we keep going? Well, it's tricky, because the problem was we were solving the problem. This is going to make a lot of people feel very old, but I realize that it's possible that there's some people who may not actually recognize this ad, which makes my heart hurt. That is the Halo 3 Believe ad campaign, one of the greatest ad campaigns ever. So please look that up on YouTube. If you have never heard of it, you have some great viewing of old men talking about Master Chief. Fantastic, very 2007. But to the point of the slide, we were making incremental progress. So the first time we had no art style, no gameplay. We had to restart completely. The idea was there, but no execution of it was sufficient at that point. So 2 years later, after restarting, we solved the art style problem pretty definitively. I mean, getting over 1 million views, close to 2 million total on that build, was very, very useful for us as an indicator of, okay, this gets people's attention, but we had no gameplay depth to really follow that up. And the gameplay wasn't as high quality as we would have hoped at the time. And so we realized again, okay, we have to go back to this idea. The path forward to us was clear. We got to give it one more go, but this time with a bigger focus on gameplay, because on attempt number 2, remember, we figured out the art style. We had to look, and if we could hone in on the mechanics, we believed in the project enough to try yet again, because we thought we could take everything we've learned. We think, because as you'll learn, this is still continuing. We think that we've kind of figured out what the game is, how to make it compelling, and how to build it out towards the eventual goal of releasing it so all of you can play it. So here we are now, just a couple random screenshots that are probably slightly distorted because I don't know if I cropped them correctly. Doggone 2021, as we're just calling it, or the full production version, because we realized something. We have the art style figured out. We've honed in on the gameplay. We're confident about this build. And now we can keep going, which may seem like an unusual thing to really see as a point of pride or accomplishment. But as I'm sure many of you know, if you've worked on a personal project or you built a vertical slice or a demo of something, it's easy to kind of, well, it's not easy. Let me rephrase. It's a much smaller undertaking to build a contained scope prototype and say, okay, this was a cool idea, but I'm not going to be able to continue it, or for whatever reason. But to be able to, all things being equal, take that prototype and just pick up where you left off because you had a good foundation, that is finally where we have gotten with Doggone. And it is one of the best feelings I've ever experienced creatively. So previously on Nick Laborde's talks, this is my favorite picture on the internet. Haha business. This is my actually exact same slide from 2 years ago. There are no magical secrets to getting funded or published. I won't be talking about or taking advantage of any tips or strategies that you don't already have access to. And all advice is useful if you put in the work. I mean, if you want to make a game, you got to make it. That's the simplest thing I can ever say. And it seems like silly advice, but you know, you can't get a game funded. You can't release a game if you don't finish it, which again seems like very dumb advice, but you just got to keep going. And that's honestly my best advice to any creative out there in any field, is you just keep going. So of course, I'm sure this is all of you right now. We're waiting. The caption here, the entire NOLA community, when you hear about Doggone being on the Meetup docket again, 2021, colorized. So let's talk about it. Here's the list of everybody. You will see that this is actually still ongoing, so I can't give you an answer yet on if the project was funded, but I can tell you about our experiences thus far. Remember what I said about in 2019, kind of making the contacts at various places so that we kind of had a list of people to go back to, and we didn't have to spend a lot of time and energy reaching out and making new contacts. I only had to make one in this whole list. So just going down the list of the folks that we've heard from and kind of some feedback we gotten from them. Devolver Digital was the only hard pass. It just wasn't for them. EA said that it was too small. And for context here, our budget is just shy of $2 million. That's a team of about a dozen people full time for 18 months plus 3 months of overhead post release, post 1.0, to account for waiting for royalties to come in from console storefronts that have 60 to 90 days of revenue waiting periods. From there, EA and Private Division both said, hey, look, you know, this is cool. It's charming. We like your pitch. Unfortunately, $2 million is too small of a budget, which on its face seems kind of silly for a multi-billion-dollar company like EA. But if you think about it, EA wants to invest $50 million to make $100 million, right? Like they don't want to pay $2 million to make 3.5. Like to them, that's just not worth their time and energy. And that's not where their resources, where they want to be allocated. Private Division was very similar. They were looking for things that are 8 figures. And I was just like, cool, this is not going to be an 8-figure game. Appreciate you, checking it out. PlayStation was possibly the most interesting of the bunch so far, in the sense of they passed on financing because it seems like they just get a lot of people trying to secure financing through them, because they're obviously a platform holder and they are very, very able to distribute those resources. But they said in their exact words, there's a lot to like in the pitch, and they'd be interested in a marketing partnership down the line if we find financing elsewhere, or if we continue self-publishing and we get to that finish line and we want to, release it on consoles. And if we pick PlayStation as one of them, which we want to, doggone, we ideally want to bring it everywhere that we can. Get ready, smart fridges and blenders of the world. But they said to basically come back and discuss a potential marketing partnership once we get to that point. So I thought that was cool. It's not nothing, and it shows that they liked it enough, not $2 million enough perhaps, but enough to say, hey, our audience would like that, and we like it enough to, boost it up. So in my opinion, that's still a net positive. That's better than nothing. Kowloon Knights was that was the only one that I had to make a new contact at. There's sort of a collective of, I don't really know too many of the people involved in it, but it's many, as far as I understand it, accomplished folks in the game industry who kind of throw in money and they just kind of give it out to the folks that they partner with and say, okay, cool, go make it. And then we know the people to do anything that you need. So we pitched to them, and unfortunately it was a little too early for them. They like projects to be a little further along, maybe at like an alpha state, before they would throw money at a project at the scale of what we were asking. So always good to understand how their process works. So now the big unknowns is the two parties that we have not heard from an answer from yet are Xbox and Raw Fury. And Raw Fury has an interesting story and connection to what's, the IDA Relief Bundle, which I'll share in just a few slides. But out of everyone listed here, I've told many of you stories before. I have some personal connections to many folks at different departments at Xbox and Microsoft. So I have a strong personal connection there, and I've known many of them for many years. So I'm interested to see what happens. That doesn't mean they're going to write me a check, but I think it counts for something. And Raw Fury, as I'll explain in just a few minutes, we had an interesting way of collaborating on the IDA Relief Bundle. So out of all these companies, these are the two that you could vaguely say know me and know us and what our team is doing. So it'll be interesting to see what they ultimately decide. And as soon as I know, I will post in the Discord. My crystal ball is as good as anyone else's. But the overall outcome of this was not bad. I mean, I'm no worse off than I was when I started. The team is no worse off. The team is very confident in what we put together. And the team, I had my first sort of informal meeting about 3 or 4 days ago with our level designer about, what comes next after where the point in the demo leaves off with. And I just realized, Curtis, we can run the demo video at the very end as we take questions and stuff, if that's cool with you.
Sounds good to me.
Cool deal. Yeah, I have the little playthrough of the demo to show you all at the very end. So, but yeah, so overall, this was a good outcome. I got to meet and talk with different contacts at different companies. I got to learn more about their processes. So if we come back for another round of pitching on this game or any other game, I know exactly what they're looking for and when to present to them and when to approach them. I had some things like PlayStation that were still a net positive, that perhaps were not the financing deal we were looking for, but still something down the line that can help us. And most importantly, that's the next slide, but it's still also important. Yeah, all the previous work I did in the before the pandemic paid off because I didn't have to spend too much time and energy.
Hey, Nick, we got a question in the chat.
Oh yes, please stop me before I talk forever.
I'd save it for later if you prefer.
Oh no,
I've already
you're good because no. This slide already was me repeating what I said on the other slide, so this is a good point to collect my thoughts. What's up, person in chat?
Hiram asks, did you say you have funding for an additional 18 months, or is that the quantity of funding you're attempting to secure?
Quantity of funding we were attempting to secure. We're looking at bringing our team of around a dozen people on full-time for 18 months in order to execute and build Doggone at the scale that we want to achieve the vision. And then 3 months on top of that reserved for overhead of, okay, it may take Sony and PlayStation 60 days to pay you your first month's royalties. So you want to make sure, if you've hired people full-time, you can cover them for at least a few months as you figure out, how your game is going to do, if it's going to be a roaring success or not. You have that extra little wiggle room. But yeah, so that funding is what we're looking for, not currently secured. Is that the only question for now?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, cool deal. Thank you for the wonderful question. But yeah, so repeating myself for the fifth time, I didn't have to, try to figure out how to make contacts or how to get in touch with these companies. I only had to make that one new connection with Kowloon Knights in order to pitch to everyone that we see as an ideal partner. We arrived at a version of the game that really showcases our vision and our opinion, and that the team was really proud of. And like I said, we can keep going if we don't strike a deal. I mean, we had to start over the past 2 times, and it's exhausting starting and trying to make the same thing 3 different times. But this time, we can keep making the game. Like, we're not limited to say we have to restart and figure it out because maybe no one signed it because it just wasn't good. This time we can say, okay, even if maybe it's not their cup of tea, we can still hone in and keep making this game and make it even better than what we're presenting now, and ultimately cross that finish line and release in whatever stage that looks like. So, of course, we said this at the beginning, but perfect time to reiterate. Thank you to everyone who participated in the IDA Relief Bundle. This was a rip-roaring success, and I am just so happy that we raised over $30,000 with the post bundle deadline donation. So it's going to help a lot of folks, and it's going to go to a good cause, all that great stuff. And again, thank you to everybody who participated, because it was truly a success because of everybody who helped. And the thing about this bundle that was just magical to me was I won't claim credit for it, but the Sunday the hurricane was rolling in, one of my contacts at Raw Fury reached out to me. They had the dog on for a couple weeks, and it's as far as I know, still sitting in their docket. They have a lot of people want to work with them because they're a very cool company. So we're on the list to be evaluated, still waiting to hear back. And at that stage, they had received it for a few weeks, and we were kind of chit-chatting, emailing back and forth, kind of getting to know each other. And my contact there, Mia, reached out Sunday and was like, hey, I just saw in the news, Mia, for context, is in California. Raw Fury started in Sweden, but they have folks all over. Mia reached out and said, look, I see the storm's on the way. Like, are you good? You going to be safe? I was worried about you. I just wanted to check in. And I do just want to say, for the record, it's not a competition, and I don't think you have to be my friend to be a partner, but no one else on that list reached out to check on me as a Category 4 hurricane was coming and was all over the national news. So take that for what it's worth. But if nothing else, I've already known that they're good people, and it's good to know that someone you're reaching out to kind of cares, that you're not just a spreadsheet or an item in their spreadsheet, so to speak. So Mia reached out to me. I told her, I said, yeah, we're good. I'm in Baton Rouge, but I said something. And then at the end of the email, I said something like, I just know that it's going to be a tough storm, and a lot of people are going to be affected, and a lot of people will need help. I wonder if we could do some kind of relief bundle, kind of in the style of the racial justice bundle or the Palestinian aid bundle. I had seen those and was inspired by them. I was like, I wonder if we could do something like that. And then she emailed me back almost immediately and was like, oh, cool, I'll bring it up in my Monday meeting. Stay safe after you get through the storm. Well, a few hours later, as we all experienced, the internet went out and the power went out and the cell towers went out. So that was an experience. And when cell service was restored in Baton Rouge about a day or so later, I woke up to another message from her saying, hey, we shared around Raw Fury. I talked with Johan, who is also in the Discord, also works for Raw Fury, cool dude. She was like, yeah, so we've already found like $10,000 in commitments, including 5,000 from Raw Fury of the 10. And I was like, whoa. Like, I was like, okay, maybe we raise a couple $100, maybe $500, maybe 1,000 if we do this right. And it's a couple $100 to a couple orgs. Like, hey, that's good stuff. But to just out of the gate have a commitment of over $10,000, that was just, it blew me away, right? Like, again, just for context, not a single other person that we reached out to even said, even if they had passed on the project, none of them reached out and said, hey, hope you're doing all right in the storm. Or I hope you're going to be okay, or checked in after. So again, it's not a competition in that sense. And I'm not asking anybody to be my best friend, especially when we're trying to, secure $2 million from you. But there's, in my opinion, my personal viewpoint and code of values is you should treat people like people. And yeah, at the end of the day, obviously we're looking for a partner and they're looking for someone who's going to make them a bunch of money. Like, it is what it is, but you can still be human and you can still check on folks and you can still, you know, have some empathy for them. So that was something I didn't feel from anybody else. So again, I think Raw Fury is really cool. Even if we don't work together, they, you know, they kind of want a place in my heart and certainly the hearts of many other people and the organizers and in the community here for those actions. So they ended up helping raise additional awareness. They helped bring in some other folks who donated as well, including the after the fact donation that we mentioned a few minutes ago, and just ultimately ended up helping our community in a way that I never would have thought. People thousands of miles away that don't really know us decided to, you know, help us out. And I thought that was just really freaking cool. So that's my slide dedicated to thanking all of you and just kind of geeking out about the cool stuff that Raw Fury did for us. So all that is to say, what's next? So this is my same slide from 2 years ago. So we'll see how long this slide stays this way. Selling my soul is always an option. You know, we're still waiting to see from two of those folks that I talked about earlier if they are interested in any kind of partnership or financing partnership in general, or we may not find a deal that's good for us and we may continue self-funding, and maybe something else crops up along the way. As I mentioned earlier, we had a unique opportunity to sort of make the opening-ish of Doggone where you can play with the dog in VR last year. That just came out of nowhere and was a very interesting use of the Doggone IP even before Doggone is made. That's the most like Todd Howard thing I've said all day. But we don't know what the future holds. And the safest thing I can tell you right now is we're going to make Doggone. If someone writes us the proverbial big old check and we can bring everyone on full time and sort of do this at the scale and the scope of the vision that we can see so clearly in our heads, if that comes to fruition, then we got a big old wonderful game to let you all play in 18 to 24 months. If that does not happen, you know, obviously resources are more finite when they're coming from yourself and your own personal and business endeavors. So the version of Doggone that gets made if someone writes a big check, or the version that gets made if it's just us as a small team continuing on in our spare time, nights and weekends, etc., looks a little different, but ultimately it's still at the core of the game we want to make. One just gets to you a lot more quickly than the other one. So no matter what, Doggone does continue on. And as soon as we have more definitive news on which route we're taking of the two presented here, I will let you all know. So here we go. Here's the nice slide at the end. I set and reset the bar, right? Like we're going to use my nice template that I've used in Google Slides for 8 years for most of the presentation, but then we're going to put the nice art the very beginning and the very end. So my closing advice is what I said earlier, you know, just keep going. I mean, every no gets you closer to yes. I mean, okay, maybe the game simply isn't good at that moment, but you can make it better. Now you know. Maybe alternatively, you find out, oh, it's a cool game, but there's no market, and you just saved a ton of time and money. Now you can go make another game. And it really could just be that the timing simply isn't right. I mean, my contact at EA literally told me, he was like, look, I know I've told you no twice now, but he's like, you know, just keep trying and keep asking folks because so much of this is just luck. He said he knew times that EA decided to fund something that they normally wouldn't have funded because someone happened to be in a good mood that day when they were approached. You know, like unfortunately, that's the frustrating part of this, right? Is so much of it can come down to luck and timing and not just your merit, but that is the way of the world. But just because it didn't work out now doesn't mean it couldn't work out in the future with a little bit more elbow grease. Life goes on and you still got more games in you. So give it your all, make some cool stuff, and just ultimately leave the world with a little bit more art than you found it. So that is the overall story of Doggone, start to not finish, but start to where we are now. And I really, really hope that the next time I speak here, possibly in 2 more years, as is tradition at this point, I hope the next time I talk to you, it's about, man, we found a partner and we made Doggone and it sold like a bunch of copies and everybody here gets crawfish bread. So Ben's just like, oh, damn it, Nick, I finally forgot about crawfish bread and now you're talking about it again. So, but yeah, so that's the story, and I'm happy to take any questions. I do have the little build playthrough
Oh,
to
yeah.
hook up at some point soon. I don't know if you want to do that during questions, after questions, however you want to do it, Curtis.
Is there sound in it?
There is sound.
Okay, well, we'll get these 2 questions, and then we'll play the video.
Sure.
And if any more pop up, we'll take them then. So the first question is not that one. Where the hell did it go? Were all the animations done in-house? And they look very doggy-like.
Thank you for the wonderful comment that they're very doggy-like. That truly is our goal at Doggone Industries, make everything as dog-like as possible. Yes, everything was done in-house. We worked with an animator named Kyle. He was a second-year student at AIE and was kind of, built that portfolio and saying, hey, I've never done a quadruped before, but I can do it. And we're like, cool. And that was his first quadruped, and I think he pulled it off really well. So for any animators out there, if you're not an animator, I should say, bipedal humans are much easier to animate and rig and make look good than quadruped 4-legged animals. Yeah, it's a thing. So super proud of the animation work that you saw just in those GIFs, and you'll see in a few minutes here in the footage.
All right, so our next question. What's your process to tell if an offer from a publisher is too small to move forward with making your game, or is there some compromises that have to be made?
So, very good question. Let me, I hope I will not get lost and I answer both parts. So, part one would be if a number is too low, if I'm understanding that correctly. I know what it costs to make this. It just depends on how far apart we are. Right, like if I want to pay everybody a fair wage and for their time, no crunch, no expectation of insane overtime or anything like that, I know what that costs, and that's almost $2 million over 18 months for 12 people. That's what it costs. If someone goes, I can throw 200 at it, then that's a fundamentally different vision of the game. I would not immediately shut it down, but it would depend on the vision of the game we are selling to that person, right? Like if I am going to Raw Fury or Xbox or PlayStation or any of those people I mentioned, I'm going to ask for exactly what I need. I'm going to say, look, this game costs, I think the exact number is like 1.89 million, something like that. I'm going to say 2 to make it easy. I need $2 million over 18 to 24 months to make this game. Every publisher financing source is going to fund you differently. The way Raw Fury does it is they just kind of divide it by the number of months and give you that monthly. It's your burn rate. Some folks do it the classical way of milestone payments. You have to make X amount of progress to get Y amount of money. Some folks do it quarterly or biannually. Everyone is different. But yeah, so to directly answer the first part of the question, if we were that far apart on money, that would then require us to rethink the way that we want to present the game. And where we currently are with the project after having done this for 4 years and 3 iterations is we want to go big and we want to make the vision. And that kind of requires everybody to, have this as the full-time job type situation. And right now that's what we want. I'm willing to discuss something else if someone would hit me with that kind of question or offer. But in general, we know what it costs, and we kind of arrive at that cost and that number based on a combination of how many hours and how long it took to build each version of the game, the rates of the people and their experience and their worth, and sort of just all the things you learn from production and business and having done this for so long. You got to combine all those factors, and that's how we get to the number. So the first part was about if a number would be too far apart, and what was the second part? It was like, how would you know if it wasn't a deal you would want to take?
Yeah, there's some compromises.
Oh yeah. So no publisher is just gonna, like, no one that I send this demo to is gonna send me a contract back and say, all right, cool, let's do it. Like it doesn't happen that quick. Like there's gonna be negotiations and there's gonna be discussions and there's gonna be legal talks and all kind of stuff. I will say again, just to kind of, raise the hand of Raw Fury, go to Raw Fury's website and look at the resources that they have shared. I don't remember exactly where it is, but it's somewhere visible on there. Last Christmas, they kind of had a mic drop moment and they said, hey, here's our publishing contract. Like no one does that. No one just says, hey, here's the exact contract that we use to sign games. They dropped it and said, hey, everyone else, I dare you, go on. tell us what you're doing in your deals. And they hoped that everybody would, sort of say, oh, here's ours, here's ours, here's ours. Of course, no one did that. They seem to be the only one. I don't know if anybody else followed up. There may be one or two that smaller publishers that decided to, follow them as well. But overall, EA is not dropping their agreement into the public space, But if you're curious about what a sort of a publisher would be expecting or asking as a baseline, go look at Raw Fury's standard contract that they have available on their website for anybody to read. It's very informative. It gives you a lot of good things to know. One thing that's really, really important and critical to understand in any sort of funding contract is the recoup period for the person who is investing in financing. Now, understand if you are getting money from a traditional investor and they own equity in the company, them owning 30% of your stock or whatever is different from a financing source saying, oh, we're going to have a 100% recoup rate so every dollar earned from the project gross sales goes back to them until you reach a certain threshold, often maybe the budget plus a few percent. And then from there, we're going to split it at whatever percentage based on how much we funded you. Right. So in this case, Raw Fury could, I believe, based on their contract, it would say recoup period is 100%. And then after that, it's 40-60, 40 to Raw Fury, 60 to developer. And I think that share differs based on how much they put up. But yeah, so that's a very good contract to read and sort of skim through if you want ideas about the things that a publisher could be asking for and things that maybe should be included in a more simplified contract. Or if someone approaches you and wants to fund your project, you could go look at that and say, oh, this is how a bigger company that signs lots of games all the time, that's how they do it. That's when they is in their contract, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, we got another one. Can you tell us more about the team? Are they all paid contractors, so they work for free or revenue sharing? And how many people work on the game regularly?
Sure. Everyone on the team is a paid contractor. I self-fund from myself. It's all Nick bucks going in there, and everyone who works on the team is paid. Everyone is a contractor. Everyone is, doing this nights and weekends in their free time, but I mean, they are still getting paid for the time that they are committing. So I wanted to clarify that. Thank you for asking that question. And what was the other part of the question?
How many people work on the game regularly?
How many people regularly? So the core team that's committing very frequently is there's myself, there's our art director, Abdullah, or just Abe for short. There's our level designer, Ian. There's our 3D artist, Seda. There's our programmer, Van. So that's, I think, 5 people. Like that's kind of regularly sort of in the sense of, so we'll scale up and down when we're self-funded, like we are closer to the end goal of a build or a milestone or whatever. We'll have almost everybody on all sort of, not departments, but everyone who does something on the project. I mean, all the way down to someone who's animating a cutscene and doing sound design for a cutscene, like someone who comes in like once or twice during an established scope period of the game. Closer to the end goal of a time period, we'll have more people involved. But at the core, there is myself, our art director, a level designer, a modeler, and a programmer at minimum. And then we have other folks who come onto the team based on the needs of the time and the timeline. So an outside animator for cutscenes, an animator for the dog, sound designer for the game, sound designer for the cutscene, our musician who works with other musicians as well sometimes. So we have folks that come in and out throughout the whole process, but there's sort of a smaller core team that's there most of the time. And then as we approach a deadline, we scale up temporarily and have more folks involved.
All right, and this looks like it'll be the last question, and we'll go ahead and play that video. If you have enough to finish a game, but don't have enough for marketing, should you still finish it?
Interesting question. Marketing should be thought about from the beginning of your project. And I know that's something that's probably said a lot and may not make a lot of sense in a vacuum. But for example, we spent all our first couple projects money and my own personal money on doggone so far getting to version 3, right? When we got to version 2, we had that sort of outside validation of, okay, the art style clicks and people would 100% buy this and wishlist it. And, eventually I wish we would have had a Steam page on version 2, because when you get over 2 million views, if you had just a couple 1 to 3% converting to Steam wishlist, we'd have thousands of people wishlisting it on Steam, excuse me. So capturing attention and proving that it can get attention, capturing that attention and trying to convert that attention down the line is very important when you're making and releasing a game of any scope or size, if you intend to sell it commercially. But to directly answer that question, I think finishing something and putting it out there is the most important goal of any creator, of any industry, and any profession. So I would say finish it, but marketing at that point, you got to find a way to do it. I mean, if you don't consider your time part of the budget, then cool. You need to go on Twitter, you need to go on Reddit, you need to go make videos or reach out to creators or YouTubers or streamers. At that point, you need to reach out as well and do a little bit of marketing for the game as well. Obviously, your time is not free, but in the sense of if you are the creator or the lead and this is your project in your spare time, in my opinion, there's a little bit of an expectation that someone is going to be the hype person who's going out there and telling people about the game. So even at the bare minimum, someone needs to be doing that near the end. But the biggest mistake I learned on my first game was, we got investment and all that good stuff. And then just to make a game in a very unprofitable segment of the market, which was shoot 'em ups or shmups. Like we should have proved that there was enough demand to buy the game. Now, granted, we barely broke even on that project, but it would have been nice to know that before I went through all the trouble of getting investment and selling away part of my company. So marketing, as a sort of to tidy and wrap all that up, marketing should be thought about from the beginning. If nothing else, you validate that there's demand for your project, your product, and it'll sell something, and to build up interest and kind of keep people interested, that you can keep giving content to, screenshots, tweets, whatever, until the game comes out. Build a community, people will buy the game, etc., etc. And if you don't have money for a dedicated marketing budget, then get ready to send some tweets and make some videos, whatever you can to get the word out, because releasing something without marketing is just not going to have a good result. If your end goal is to be commercially and financially successful at making a game, there has to be a concerted effort done to market it. Like I see a lot, this is not my most popular opinion, but I see a lot of people talking about discoverability issues in games. And a lot of times, I mean, the reality is so many games are made and so many games go on Steam and Itch and all these other places that we can buy and play these wonderful works of art. But it's not the platform's job to market and sell your game, right? Like you have to do part of that as well. So yes, discoverability is something that gets harder in a crowded marketplace, but there's also the expectation that the creator is going to put in their effort and their energy as well to try to tell people that it exists, tell people why it's compelling, etc., etc. So I hope that answers the question.
Sweet. And no other questions came in, so we're gonna go ahead and get this video rolling. I'm gonna take over.
Let me stop sharing. I think I did.
Screen optimize for video clip. There we go.
Sorry. I don't know if the sound will come through, but I hope it does.
It should come through on Zoom, but it'll also come through on the stream. So that's the important part.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry to pause it. We had one more question that I just
sat back in my chair. No,
I just needed to get this question out in the air. Jason wants to know if you've ever given a short answer to a question.
Well, it's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. I come from a long line of politicians and lawyers.
All right.
I hope to stumble into the answer with enough words. That's my strategy.
We'll go ahead and play the video. Thank you for the questions.
and please note the bandana in the build that I supplied. I just like to say that, it's the little things. Who opened that door?
Excellent.
That is doggone. So I appreciate everybody. Oh, go ahead.
We had one more question come through the chat here.
Sure.
Can you make the dog shit in the game?
I really don't know who could have asked that question. It's a very important one. I will say that I did show the game to someone in the industry, and their first critique was, why can't I pee or poop everywhere? So I've gotten a lot of good feedback on that one.
Must have been a very smart person whose opinion you should value a lot.
You're not wrong on that one, Curtis. So I'll add that to the backlog.
Well, I think that about does it for our presentation here tonight. We've been getting over for a little while. So thank you everyone for coming and joining us tonight. Once again, this is the New Orleans Game Dev Meetup. This is the month of September. Next month is the month of October. Next month we will be joined by, I don't know. I feel like I say that every month. Who? I don't know. You'll find out. We'll tell you. There's gonna be someone.
Better at this one day.
Yeah, we're gonna have this planned out in advance. So it's gonna. Yep, the spookening time has come. It'll be a very spooky meetup. So we hope to see y'all next month. Knock on. I think my desk is made of wood. At the Sea Cave in person in real life. We could have wonderful sliders, either spam or cheeseburger variety. So in the meantime, this is an old slide that I just copied to stay home until then. Hopefully there's no more horrible storms. You can join us on Discord, and hang out afterwards if you want to chat and pal around or what have you. It's been a great time. Thank you, Nick, for your time and presenting for us this month. It's great to have a presenter who presents actually and shows up. Not gonna cast any shade to anyone else, but it's
I
great
just hope
having
that
you.
I answered some question with some amount of words that was valuable to some amount of people.
Yeah. It was great. Thank you. It's always a joy and a pleasure to see if the dog is gone or if it has been found, and same with the money. So thank you for joining us, everyone. And if you want to come join, hang out in the Discord, apparently there's a neat bot command in the Twitch chat like that. Or not. Oh, yeah, there it is. And you can join the Discord and hang out. I'm going to go pet my dog. So peace out, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you next week on Tuesday